All right, guys. So the winners reset, long-term thinking, short-term emotion. This has everything to do with being able to think beyond what you want right now. Now, if you've ever struggled with instant gratification, which I'm sure I know all of us do in one way or another, let me know. All right, let me know if instant gratification, kind of fighting that feeling of, you know, uh, making a decision that feels good in the moment, but then later on you're like, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but it hurts more in the future. Same thing, it's impulsive decisions when you're trading because you just took a loss or you have a certain target in your mind. And so, one of the things that I believe separates winners and losers, because this game is that cutthroat, it's winners or losers. Just like there's bulls and bears, just like it's a constant tug of war. As a trader, you're either winning or you're losing. And I'm not talking about your P&L. I'm not talking about whether you're making money that day or not. You are either a winning trader because of the way in which you act, because of your discipline, or you are a loser, which means you're losing the good habits, you're losing the principles that are allowing you to stay in the game, that are giving you a good enough edge to extract money from the market. So it has nothing to do with anybody else. It doesn't even have to do anything with your P&L. It's everything having to do with the way in which you act. Because I believe that we all genuinely, at least slightly, know when we're making the right decision or when we're making the wrong decision. Even when you make a decision, there's a part of you that knows I'm treading a fine line here. I'm almost trying to get away with it. Has anyone ever had that experience? You're like, let's see if I can get away with this one, like maybe it'll work out. And then after this, I promise I'm gonna do it better. And this goes in any aspect of our lives. And the unfortunate truth is that you never get away with it. Getting away with it is impossible because every single decision is an imprint to our identity every single time. So even if you get a beneficial outcome, you're still moving the needle in the wrong direction in regards to your identity, your habits, because it's always compounding, but it's either for you or against you. So let's go into this, right? Most traders don't lose because of their strategy. They lose because they carry the last trade into the next one. And this is actually just as strong as an emotion as it is when you lose. It's actually sometimes, depending on your personality, even just as dangerous if you're winning. Anyone ever here kind of feel like you're taking a trade, you're winning and you're winning and you're winning, whether it's you're having winning days or you're on a winning streak, you're just not taking L's. And you would never have this kind of invincibility complex where you're just like, there's just like every shot's gonna go in. Everything you do is effortless. Like at this point, you feel like you're on clouds. That can be just as dangerous as the feeling of losing and losing and losing and losing. So they both have extremes. But the main line is that we're bringing emotion into the next moment. We're bringing whatever the outcome was of the last trade, we're carrying that over. And this is not that game. And it's actually a good thing. It's a complete reset after every single trade. The moment that you enter a trade, even if there's a completely different setup, a few minutes later, it has absolutely nothing to do with the one that you just took. There's zero correlation between the trades that you take completely. They're all completely separate. The market, you have to understand, you're not playing against the market, you're playing against yourself. The market isn't reacting to your decisions, but we think it is. Anyone ever feel like that? Anyone ever feel like I just lost a couple of times? Let me just take a step back. Why? The market isn't acting different because you just won. Respectfully, the market could care less. We're nothing. We're like ants in the infinite cosmos. We are little atoms of money pockets in the infinite pool of trillions that are moving in these markets. So let's humble ourselves and realize we are absolutely basically non-existent with these markets. So we're not playing against the markets. So why should we get stop trading or even start, depending on what just happened? And this is what I want you guys to lock in on. The first major principle is, and I want you to ask yourself before you take your next trade, did you carry the next one? Did you carry the last one? Because when you carried the last trade over, what happens? That trade is just a little bit heavier. And then you carried the last two trades over, and that trade is a little heavier. And then all of a sudden, you're carrying a week's worth of trades. And now it's back day. You know? Now you're carrying, now you got 1,000 pounds and you got to squat that. And it's not gonna work out. So think about it, even on a physical level, you can't just keep adding more and more weight to your shoulders. Eventually you're gonna break. And what happens is this is happening on a subconscious level. We're not noticing it. You're really not noticing it unless you're journaling, unless you're like going through it and you've kind of closed the loop. Otherwise, you're not going to notice. And that's what I want you guys to think about when you're journaling is today. It's like you want to close the loop. So let me give you guys a perspective. Maybe this will be useful to you. Think about how your phone works and imagine you get a brand new phone. All right, on a brand new phone, it's got like all of this memory. You have no apps running, it's just fresh. And all of a sudden, you start to download some apps. You download Spotify, your social media, right? You download your productivity apps. Got to get that trading view, right? Got to get the meta traders, the trade lockers, everything that we got to get the Coinbase. So you're getting all these apps. You get the iMessage, and all of a sudden now you start. It's been a few weeks, maybe it's been a month, and you've done so much in that month. In that month, you've texted people, you've watched videos on YouTube, you've downloaded files, you've been on Telegram, you've been on a million different apps. You got your calendars, and all of a sudden your phone's not functioning at the same velocity as it was a month ago. Think about it. You've had that phone for 6 months, a year, 2 years. Anyone ever have a phone for 2 years? All of a sudden, you get to like 2 years and that phone just does not work the same anymore. Like something suspicious is suddenly happening. Why? What happens is if we're not careful, we're going to open more and more and more apps. And behind the scenes, you have a million different things running. You have a million different apps, and it's just pulling so much bandwidth from your phone that it can't function at the same capacity. This is exactly what happens as a trader. If you don't manually open up your phone, you open the apps and you start to close out all of those tabs, all of those behind the scenes apps. As soon as you start to close all of those out, all of a sudden your phone's working a little bit better. It's the same thing with trading. You're not realizing, but behind the scenes, you have the loss you took on Tuesday, right? The over leveraging that happened on Monday. Last week, you missed the trade and you really were kind of upset because it went and hit a 7R. There was that moment where you hit buy instead of sell. And a million different things that are happening. Something happened at work. Someone cut you off. So there's a million things running behind the scenes. And because we're carrying all that over and we're never addressing it, making a finale, coming to a conclusion with all of these little events, they're piling up. And it's the reason that you might spaz on someone when you're driving on the road. It's the reason that out of nowhere you have this urge to just throw everything at the market. It's all those little things running. So as you move forward as a trader, I need you guys to start to be more conscientious of what's happening behind the scenes, whether it's emotions or thoughts, assumptions, expectations. So we want to have all of these things locked in and close them, truly get to a conclusion with those things. So here's what we're going to do. To win long term, you must master short term amnesia, long term memory. Short term amnesia, long term memory. What does that mean? That means that whatever just happened, erase it from your mind. The outcome is irrelevant, but you do want to remember the behaviors and the patterns. So forget the last, even if you want, it doesn't matter. Forget that. But you do want to have a long term memory. Why do you want a long term memory as a trader? Because you're currently building towards something. You're currently working towards whether it's a certain vision for your own life. It might be something tangible. It might be a certain, feeling of expression. Could be quitting your job, retiring your family, just going from full time to part time. It might be you might have a net worth target on your mind right now. So there's a million different reasons why. But that's what you want to lock in on. It might be none of those things. And the long term memory is I just want to go 25 trades in a row without breaking any part of my system. I want to have immaculate process based trading. And that's the long term vision. You might not be thinking, oh man, I need to go and withdraw something this week. You're thinking, my goal is 1 million in funding, 500,000 in funding, whatever it is, but that's what we're building towards. It's not about having a winning day today. It's not about having a winning streak. Oh no, like I just took a lot. Short term amnesia, long term memory. Now, there's plenty of emotions that we go through as traders, but fear is actually not caused by losing. It's caused by clinging to a loss that's already over. Isn't that kind of funny? You already lost. Like you already got the result. Why are you holding on to it? Why are you holding on to something that already happened? What can change? Nothing. Nothing can possibly change. You already lost. Now, the reason I think we get caught up in it is because we forget to think about what does a loss mean? What's the context behind this last loss? And one of the easiest ways that has helped me in the last, like, I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years, whenever I lose a trade, I kind of just, it's like a mental note. Cool. I lost the battle. I didn't lose the war. It's that simple. It's like I sacrificed the pawn so I could take the bishop. I sacrificed the pawn so I can take the knight. Every once in a while, you're going to sacrifice the pawn so you can take the queen. And rarely, but when the setup is right, when the opportunity is right, you sacrifice the pawn and you get a checkmate. But you have to understand that that's the game that you're playing. So why carry over the loss? The reason we like feeling the loss is because we get to just it's the easiest emotion to feel. Hopelessness. Because you don't have to do anything. You just sit there. You just feel sorry for yourself. It requires no additional effort. It doesn't require any extra brain power. It doesn't require taking action. It doesn't require changing direction. You just keep going in the downtrend that you've put yourself in because you allowed it to happen. That's why. It's the easiest thing to feel bad for yourself. That's why there's such a culture around sadness. There's such a culture around just pitying yourself. because it requires nothing. And what happens when you get around other people that are the same way? You just create more and more excuses for why everything's unfair. There's no ownership. So the moment there's ownership, the momentum shifts because now you take responsibility. Now you're starting to move in the right direction. Now you're thinking, okay, let's lock the loss in the books. That's a loss in the books. Cement it. You take ownership and you move forward. Why? Because now you're not sitting in the loss, you're moving forward. You're realizing, perfect. My expectation was that there was X probability that I could lose. I knew that coming into this. So maybe right now you're trading going into the market and you think you're trading risk reward, but in reality, you're trading delusion reward. In reality, you've never accepted the loss. You've accepted possibly winning, but you never truly accepted the loss. And that's why you need to move on. You need to lock the loss in the books. Because once you do, then it can't take anything from you anymore. It already took the money. It didn't even take the money. You gave the money. You gave the dealer the money. You placed the bet. You placed the order. It was your order. So fear isn't caused by losing, it's caused by clinging to a loss that's already over. Now, the first mental model, right? Short term amnesia, forget individual outcomes, remember patterns and behaviors. So if you just lost, perfect. You took the loss, you lost whatever money you decided you were supposed to lose. But what you want to remember is, how did I go about this? Did I get to this loss in a way that was based on my system? Did I get to this loss in a way that was based on exactly how I was supposed to lose? Or did it, maybe I didn't? Maybe I missed something in my analysis. And so you want to remember your patterns, your behaviors, and the market patterns so that you can make the adjustments if you need to. So you have to detach. You have to basically you split. You put aside whatever feelings you got from it because that's all it is. Is you got a feeling. Remember, whatever you feel isn't truth. It's not reality. You just received a feeling. At that point, you choose whether you accept it or you deny it. So cool. Forget the outcome. Remember the patterns and the behaviors. So here's something that we can go and apply. Stop asking, did I win or lose? Start asking, did I follow my process perfectly? That's really the only metric. If there's anything I can do to just help you evolve as a trader is how often can you answer yes? Did I follow my process perfectly? How frequently can I answer that question with the yes? Did I follow my process perfectly? Yes, I did. On to the next one. On to the next one. On to the next one. This is the winning streak that we want. This is the one. This is the one that we're looking for. So here's another mental model that we can apply as we're going through our trading. Process compounds, outcome distracts. So, what's your job? Your job is stack process equity, not emotional debt. Stack process equity, not emotional debt. Okay. So, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does stacking process equity mean? Now, stacking process equity, you want to have and build more and more ownership. You want to own more and more of your process until it becomes part of your identity. If you guys have never read the book Atomic Habits, it's probably one of the most like popular books in the world at this point. But when you're wanting to implement a new habit, part in which, like the science in which you can do it is by stacking small wins. So, for example, let's say you want to start running, you know? So then one of the examples that it gives is cool. Well, what can you do? Well, you can leave your shoes and your clothes out ready so that there's less friction. That's the first little process that you're stacking. From there, you might even have your water or whatever ready as well. Okay. Then what? Okay. Well, if I get to bed earlier, then that is the thing. And you're like, okay, well, I don't even have to make it to running. I just got to make it outside. Because if I can make it outside, then there's really likely that I'm going to be able to run. And so, process equity, you just want to add little by little and accumulate those things. It's the same thing. So, for example, if you're learning how to build this skill, okay, first we think about, can I properly prepare myself in the morning? So we're not focused on entries. We're not thinking about risk. We're not thinking about exits or TP, nothing like that. Just, can I wake up? Can I be in front of a chart 15 minutes before New York, but the bell rings before New York open? It's the easiest thing. Can I start there? You don't know anything else, but can I just show up in front of the screen? Cool, I can do that now. All right, well, let me get here 30 minutes before New York open. Now you're showing up. Perfect. 2 days down. Well, the next day, let's get a little bit better at this. Why don't I listen to some sort of, you know, trading psychology? Still nothing. You're not trading even, but you're mentally preparing. Okay, perfect. Well, why don't I learn about how the markets even function? Like what, how, why can I make money buying or selling? And then you have knowledge on just generally how the markets function. So little by little, you're just stacking processes. Eventually, you're like, oh, hold on, this is what risk reward means. I buy here and I get out here. I can risk $1 and make three. Okay, interesting. And you're just compounding processes eventually to a point where you start to figure out, wait, there's these things called entries. I need to be able to get into the market at the right time. And then you just refine that and you perfect the entry. Well, you're like, well, if I'm going to get in this, I probably have to do this responsibly, right? All right, so what does that look like? And you start to just go through the processes. So that's what you want to focus on. During that process, right? During everything I just explained, did we ever talk about how we felt? No. Did we ever talk about our expectations of what we're supposed to get from the market? No. Did we ever talk about the money that we were supposed to make by X amount of time? No. So when we're fully stacking process, equity, and nothing else, the game just feels easier. Why? Because you're not expecting anything out of it. You're not going into debt emotionally. How do you get into debt? Just think about it. How do you get into debt? It's when you're borrowing. That's right. It's when you're borrowing from an entity when you don't own it. You don't have the capital, so you borrow it. Right? You don't have the asset, so you borrow it. So why do we have emotional debt? Because we feel like we're owed something when we haven't earned it yet. So we borrow it. Think about it. If you're feeling some type of way about your trading journey, it's only because you feel like you've earned something when in reality you've just been borrowing from it the whole time. That's the difference between assets and liability. All right, let's move on to the next one. Every loss is tuition. But if you pay tuition and skip class, you're not learning, you're just losing. Simple. This one, just screenshot this one. Yeah, I'll even move my camera here. There you go. Every loss is tuition, but if you pay tuition and skip class, You're not learning, you're just losing. So, what is class? Class can be showing up to a live session, class can be a training like this, class can be your own evaluated experience. So, for example, if you lose a trade, you're just trading by yourself, you lose that trade, but you document the process, you extract a perspective, you just go back and you're like, okay, what was my thought processes? How did this go? Did I go about everything the right way? Or maybe I didn't. And then by the end of it, you go, cool. I've collected everything I could from everything I just experienced. Perfect. Cool. You took yourself to class. But when you just show up, you trade, and then you just move on, and there's just nothing in between. There's no evaluation of any sort. Then yeah, you're you're not learning anything. You're just losing money only because you're too lazy to go and refine your own thinking. Now, mental model number three, trade from identity. So let me give you an identity. What would a $1 million funded trader do right now? So think about it. Put yourself in that position right now. Boom. Everybody, 111 of you, you all have 1 million in funding right now. What do you do? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. How do you start your day tomorrow? Right now, you have $1 million in funding live. How do you start tomorrow? Relaxed. Okay. Not set trade after a loss. Not set the trade after a loss. Risk 2%. All right, Danny, you're gonna have to start from zero, my friend. I do the same thing I'm doing now. Okay. With a glass of water and a deep breath. Disciplined, risk 0.25%. Stick to the same plan you had. I like that. With prayer and gratitude. Soon, but I'd be reading the word first, analyzing the markets, only trading if my setup is here. Invest 0.01 on NAS. Okay. Clear minded, simple, read my Bible. I might not be trading. I'm glad someone's honest. Follow your system. Treat trading like a business, not a casino. Okay. So, right, you're trading from the identity. Now, some of you here very transparently said, I don't have that identity. So I wouldn't trade it at all. Like, and I accept that. It's like I don't. Well, you are broke. If you get $1 million in fund right now to trade, you're broke. You haven't withdrawn anything. You have zero. All you have is capital. You don't have assets. So you are broke. And let's not confuse that as well. We start acting all different because we got all this, there's all this like paper money that you have access to an extent, but until it hits the bank, you don't have anything. So the exercise. What would $1 million funded trader do right now? Now, what I want you to think about is this, and this is the reason I bring this up, is I want you to imagine that that's how you're starting every day. Every day, you're approaching your account as if there's already 1 million in funding there. That's how I want you to approach it because you're going to nurture that money differently, not from scarcity. No, 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 not from scarcity. But you're going to respect the process it took to get there because you know the way in which you got there more than likely was earned. You're going to go about doing this in a way where you treat everything because it's been earned. You're not doing this and you're not just like, oh, now let me risk 2%, even though I'm only going to get, a 6% buffer. Not really. When you have 1 million, all of a sudden, you're not even proving anything to anybody, right? If you have 1 million in funding, do you feel like you're going to have to prove anything to anyone? Maybe you do. But do you get there? Someone said here, if I have 1 million in funding, or I just do what I've been doing. Okay, so here's my argument. If what you've been doing has been working, why don't you have 1 million in funding then? Now, maybe your argument is I just need more time because I'm in the right trajectory. And that's very possible. Right now, some of you are doing the right things. And as long as you don't get in your own way, and as long as you're approaching it and you're focusing on just evidence based trading, you're focusing on your process, you're not over risking, over trading just to get there faster, you will get there. But some of you believe you're further than you really are. And so we need to be truly aware. Do I have a duplicatable process that's going to get me there? Yes or no? And until you can answer that question fully, transparently, and honestly, then you're going to get there or not. And a million in funding, honestly, at this point, like it can be done relatively quickly. That depends on how much capital you have access, like how much money you're making, how much you can invest, and all that good stuff. But the big thing from this is this: I want you to think, how am I treating, how am I respecting my account right now? If my account right now suddenly is a million in funding, what do I do? And in that moment, I think a lot of your emotions are going to expose themselves because suddenly you have access to a million in funding. And if your mind isn't fully matured and you have the right perspective with money, perspective with trading, what you're going to do is you're going to do a high risk trading to get money fast. Why? Because your identity isn't aligned with what you have access to. You're only focusing on what can I get out of this? I'll finally show people. Your focus isn't on keeping the account. It's on let me just extract from it. Let me take instead of let me give the most disciplined version of myself to this. Some of you, you realize, okay, here's a million. Perfect. You focused on your risk reward. You have a conservative risk so that you can keep your account. Some of you said a 1/4%. So, okay, then what? At a 1/4% risk, it's super light. You don't even need too much risk reward and you're still withdrawing successfully. You can keep just compounding because a million is just a stepping stone. And others of you, the moment that you hear you're going to see, right? One and then six zeros next to it. It's going to terrify you. And you're going to realize that's fine. I haven't been doing this very long and I'm okay with that. I have a lot to learn. Or you're going to realize I still have fears to let go of. I've been playing around too long. I've been playing too small. So visualize it because I want you to see, I want you to get a real feeling of what your attitude, what your identity, is it aligned with it? Or is there some growth to be done? Now, let's do a little self-evaluation. You can answer this honestly. You don't have to say it in the chat. Just ask yourself this. Am I trading from scarcity or abundance? How do you know? How do you decide? I'll have you guys think about it. Am I trading from outcome or process? So are you thinking in terms of risk reward? Are you thinking in terms of dollars? Are you thinking in terms of percentages? Do you have a good day when you win and a bad day when you lose? Those are some ways to know. Fear or clarity. And these fears come from a lot of different places. For you can trigger them in a million different ways. So if you feel like you're on the left side of these questions, at least you're acknowledging it. Now, not everyone is. Some of you are all on the right side. Some of you are mixed between this, and that's totally perfect. But we need to address it and tackle it on. So where does this scarcity come from? Is it a belief issue, which can be changed? These are all skills that can be learned. Is it how we grew up with money? Is it comparison? Are we carrying old expectations? Where does it come from? So that's what you need to figure out. because I don't have time to figure it out for you right now. Okay. So here's a couple of things that I want you guys to just literally install. Download this into your brain. So between every trade, you want to audit your system. Did I follow it? So yes or no. Entry. Did I follow it perfectly? Yes or no. Exit. Yes or no. All the processes. It has to be quick. One sentence reflection. What did I learn because of my process today? I learned that I am still chasing money. I learned that I'm getting better at my exit strategy. I learned that I'm fearful still. I haven't quite figured out why. So what is it? Three, reset your breath. As odd as this may sound, a lot of your emotional state can be reset just based off of your physiology. So sometimes just literally taking a deep breath and you can just all of a sudden you just like physically reset yourself. Get up, go for a walk, come back, and approach it if you need to. But it's altering your physical state will literally change your perception emotionally too. It's an easy way. It's not a fix, but it's a good way for you to just come at it from a different angle. And then lastly, declare whatever way you want to write this, but next trade is a clean slate. Every time you start from zero. Every single time you start from zero. Okay. All right. So here's the commitment, family. For your next 30 trades, track emotional residue, not just P&L. Track emotional residue. That's the word, residue. It's not going to be a massive red flag of intense emotions that are just going to be carrying on from the last one. As for some of you, it might. I honestly might. But for a lot of you, it's going to be little, just like a little bit of a lingering feeling, a lingering belief, a slight frustration and annoyance. Just track that and then write it down. Okay. Yeah, losing this one hurt. Why? Well, I really thought I was going to win. For example, today, I'll talk about myself today. I made two mistakes today, which is a little unusual. Now, I took an L on US 30. Shouldn't have taken it. It was more bullish. Should have taken NASDAQ. But I was doing things. I should have just been focused. So I saw it and just took the position. Then I looked at NAS and I'm like, fuck, this is the better setup. Okay. One mistake. Second mistake was I didn't analyze thorough enough. As soon as I lost, I was like, what? Why? How did these both lose? And it happens. It's like you can lose according to your system, no problem. But then I literally analyzed it for 2 minutes and I'm like, wait a minute. This played out of the zone like 7 hours ago. I just missed it. How did I miss this? Okay. So at that moment, if I do nothing and I'm just like, damn, I just took these L's, like they don't make sense. All right, on to the next one. Then there's going to be emotional residue. So what did I do? I'm like, okay, so why did I miss it? And I realized, okay, well, my YouTube stream was crashing this morning twice. So I was getting annoyed and frustrated. That means now I'm starting my stream way behind and I want to get to this before New York Open. So by the time I was streaming live, I was rushing through it. I wanted to get through the charts. I wanted to break it all down so that we can go ahead and just have our setups. And so I rushed myself when that's definitely not something you want to do, especially when you're putting money on the line. So the emotional residue there was realizing I made mistakes and it actually started before I even traded because I wasn't prepared enough. So my real mistake was lack of preparation. That was the initial mistake that triggered a few more. Then the last thing is how you see yourself. Because if you're now going to bring yourself down because you made mistakes, then you're going to carry that over and you're going to be afraid to trade in the next one because, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if I'm missing something? And you don't want to do that either. So realizing, okay, cool. Just because that version of me this morning made a couple mistakes and missed it, being in the game for this long, it's like, okay, cool. What makes the difference, and I think this is the biggest separator between long-term winners and long-term losers, is that how quickly you bounce back from a mistake or a loss. You don't linger in it. You zero it out. Short-term amnesia, long-term memory. So, with that being said, guys, you can't master trading until you master how to lose. Thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Gio, thank you for co-hosting here. Always being a G, creating these environments for us to grow. This recording will be available to all of you. And so I'm going to post that, I know, in our community here with Tradetopia.